1. We're checking out this absolutely clean 1984 Chevy C10 short bed that just popped up on Craigslist for $30K. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's some serious cash for an 80s Chevy, but let me tell you why this one's special. This C10 is rocking that sweet 5.7 LTPI, tuned port injection setup paired with a 700R4 automatic trans, a killer combo that gives you both power and decent highway cruising. The odometer shows just 13,655 miles, though we might want to verify if that's original or since rebuild. What really catches my eye is the overall condition. The seller's not playing around when they say it's excellent. The custom paint job looks clean, and here's something that'll make you smile. The AC actually works. That's like finding a unicorn in these old trucks. Being a short bed model, these are becoming increasingly desirable among collectors and enthusiasts. The clean title is another huge plus, suggesting this truck hasn't been through any major drama. Real talk though, $30K is sitting at the higher end of the market for these trucks, even for one in excellent condition. But given how the classic truck market has been going crazy lately, and if this C10 is as clean as described, someone who's really into these trucks might see the value here. 2. We're looking at a pretty interesting 1975 Ford F-250 extra cab that just popped up on Craigslist for $15,000. Let me give you the straight scoop on this classic Ford. This big boy is packing that legendary FE 390 V8 engine. These motors are known for their torque and reliability when properly maintained. It's matched with a 3-speed automatic transmission, and being a 75 model, you won't have to deal with any smog hassles, which is a huge plus in many states. Now let's keep it real here. The seller's honest about this being a project that needs some TLC. It's got some nice features like power steering, power brakes, and aftermarket AC, plus a nice stereo system, but don't expect a show-ready truck at this price point. With 100,000 miles on the clock, this F-250 is described as running and driving well, which is promising. The red paint appears to be holding up okay from what we can tell, and having a clean title is always a good sign. Here's the thing though, $15,000 firm is asking a fair bit for a project truck from the 70s, even with the desirable extra cab configuration. These old Fords are getting harder to find, especially with the 390, but you'll want to inspect those common rust areas and make sure the frame is solid before pulling the trigger. 3. We're checking out this super clean 1984 Ford Ranger that's popped up for $7,000. And let me tell you, this one's pretty special. What we've got here is essentially a completely refreshed first-gen Ranger, and the seller's list of improvements is longer than my grocery list. The current owner has clearly been passionate about this truck, spending the last 5 years meticulously upgrading and maintaining practically everything. Let's talk about what's been done. We're looking at fresh mechanicals, including a new alternator, radiator, brake system components, Monroe shocks all around, and a recent transmission service. The cooling system's been completely overhauled, and it's got new safety equipment, including fresh seat belts. The truck's got some serious off-road attitude with those new EcoVision MT tires, a Badland winch, and off-road lights. The odometer shows 128,635 miles, but with all these new parts, it's basically got a new lease on life. The black paint looks sharp, and those new chrome bumpers really set it off. Plus, it's got a fresh Herculiner bed liner that's only a few months old. Here's the honest truth. At $7,000, considering the current market and the extensive list of new parts, this is actually pretty reasonable. You're getting a well-maintained, head-turning classic Ranger that's ready to roll. The seller's only letting it go because they need something more comfortable for their age, which is totally understandable. 4. We're checking out this interesting 1985 Chevy CK pickup that's up for grabs at $4,000. And I've got to keep it real with you about this one. Let's start with the good stuff. This is a documented 2-owner truck with just 73,125 original miles, which is pretty remarkable for a 38-year-old workhorse. The current owner has put some decent work into it. New seat upholstery, fresh dash, new carpet, and some mechanical updates, including transmission service, new mounts, and a heater core replacement. Plus, it's got nearly new tires and a working Tommy liftgate, which is a nice bonus. Now, let's be honest about the not-so-great parts. This truck has some battle scars from its 35-year career as a hospital work truck, so expect some dents and dings. The AC needs a recharge, and here's the big one. It failed smog in Orange County, and the owner had to register it in Reading to pass. That's something you'll need to consider depending on where you live. The 305 V8 and automatic transmission are solid, reliable combinations, though not the most powerful setup you could get in these trucks. The long bed configuration is great for hauling, but makes it a bit less desirable for collectors. At $4,000, you're getting a lot of truck with documented history and some useful updates. However, you'll need to be okay with the cosmetic imperfections and potential emissions issues. It's registered through 2026, which is nice, but make sure you understand your local smog requirements before pulling the trigger. 5. We're looking at a pretty unique 1968 Chevy dually that's got an interesting story behind it, listed at $8,500. Let me break this one down for you straight. First off, this isn't your typical '68 Chevy. This truck started life as a dealer-converted tow truck in Sacramento, which is pretty cool historical tidbit. It's running a 350 V8 with a fresh heavy-duty TH400 automatic transmission, which is a bulletproof combo if I've ever seen one. Now let's keep it real here. This truck needs some work. The seller's honest about that, but they're also daily driving it, so it's definitely a runner. It's got some recent updates, including a new bench seat, new gas tank, and tires that were replaced about a year ago. The odometer shows 88,000, but it's rolled over, so actual mileage is unknown. Here's where things get a bit tricky. It's got a salvage title, but not because of damage. Apparently, when the tow equipment was removed during restoration, it triggered a salvage title situation. The seller's been struggling with the DMV to sort this out, which is a headache many of us can relate to. For $8,500, you're getting a piece of commercial vehicle history that's been partially restored. These '68 dualies are getting harder to find, especially ones with interesting origins like this. The salvage title situation might scare some folks off, but if you're mechanically inclined and don't mind dealing with some DMV paperwork, this could be a cool project to finish up. 6. We're checking out a pretty sweet 1964 Ford F100 that's popped up on Craigslist for $12,000, and this one's got some interesting history to share. This long bed beauty was originally built at the San Jose Ford plant, and it's had quite the Northern California life. Let me be straight with you about what we're looking at here. It's not a numbers-matching truck anymore, but the modifications might actually make it better for real-world use. The original engine said goodbye back in 2016, but here's where it gets interesting. The owner swapped in a Ford 300 straight 6 from an '88 F100, and these engines are absolutely legendary for their reliability. Even better, this engine came from a well-maintained Marin Community College truck with documented service history. They also converted the transmission from the original 3 on the tree to a more user-friendly 4 on the floor setup. The truck got a fresh paint job in 2017, though it's picked up some honest wear marks from actually being used for carpentry work. The rust issues were properly addressed with a new bed installation and some professional welding repairs, which is exactly what you want to see on these old Fords. Recent updates include a new battery, alternator, and a working heater, which is a big plus in these old trucks. The radiator's about 5 years old, and while the white wall tires show some work wear, they still give the truck that classic look. 7. We're looking at something seriously wild. A 1970 Chevy C10 that's been transformed into one of the most unique builds I've seen, listed at $8,350. Let me break this one down because it's not your average classic truck. This is basically a mashup of old school cool and modern muscle. We're talking about a 70 C10 body sitting on a 2006 Cadillac Escalade chassis. That means you're getting that beefy 6.0 LV8 and AWD system from the Escalade, which is a pretty killer combination. The seller's done all the heavy lifting with the chassis swap and suspension work, which is honestly the hardest part of a build like this. Now let's keep it real. This is still a project truck. The seller mentions it needs some minor welding work, and it's going to need body and paint to really bring it all together. With 160,000 miles on the drivetrain, presumably from the donor Escalade, you're getting a proven powertrain with plenty of life left. At $8,350, you're basically buying someone else's vision that's about 75% complete. The hard, expensive engineering work is done. We're talking about the chassis swap, suspension setup, and drivetrain integration. That's thousands of hours of work right there. This could be an absolute beast when finished. Imagine the comfort and reliability of a modern Escalade wrapped in classic C10 sheet metal. It's the kind of build that'll turn heads at cars and coffee while still being totally drivable. 8. We're looking at a really special 1967 Ford F100 that's got a story that'll tug at your heartstrings, listed for $6,000. Let me tell you why this one's different. This F100 is rocking its original powder blue paint in the cab, with one respray outside in a close Ford blue. Under the hood, you've got the robust 352 V8 paired with a C4 automatic transmission. Plus, it's got power steering and power brakes. Pretty nice options for a 67. Here's where this truck's story gets interesting. It was owned by a Vietnam vet who used it as his escape vehicle, outfitting the bed with plywood and carpet, topped with a shell for camping and fishing trips. The bed is described as mint, thanks to this protection, which is rare for these old workhorses. The current owner has been keeping it garage stored for the past 5 years and has collected some serious upgrade parts that come with the truck. A new American wire kit, specific to this model, new brake booster, and a Spitfire ignition upgrade with electric points. The exhaust system was replaced in 2012. At $6,000, you're not just buying a classic truck, you're getting a piece of American history with a touching backstory. The seller is specifically looking for a family who will appreciate and work on this truck together, which says a lot about its sentimental value. 9. We're checking out a seriously clean 1970 Chevy C20 that's listed for $17,900. And let me tell you, this one's been given some serious love. The star of the show here is that monster 402 big block V8 under the hood. These engines are legendary for their torque and reliability when properly maintained, and according to the seller, this one's running strong and starts every time. Music to our ears. What makes this C20 special is the level of mechanical attention it's received. The seller's got over $25,000 in receipts from the last decade, covering literally everything from the engine and transmission to the brakes, suspension, exhaust, and cooling system. Even the electrical system has been gone through, which is huge for these old trucks. The truck's showing 77,000 miles, rolled over, and it's wearing a sharp gray wrap with fresh wheels and a bed liner. Inside, you're getting new carpet and a rebuilt seat, so no sketchy springs poking you while you drive. At $17,900, we're not in budget truck territory anymore, but considering the amount of work done in the current market for well-sorted classic trucks, it's actually pretty fair. You're essentially buying a thoroughly rebuilt 3/4 ton that's ready to work or show. 10. We've got a real treat for you, a 1964 Ford F250 that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. This classic workhorse is priced at just $9,500, which seems like a pretty fair deal for a truck with this much history and character. First off, let's talk about the aesthetics. This F250 is sporting its original two-tone paint job, which is a real rarity these days. It's always great to see a classic truck that hasn't been repainted or modified too heavily, and this one definitely fits the bill. Under the hood, you'll find a rebuilt engine, which is a great sign. The seller doesn't specify exactly what work was done, but a rebuilt engine is always a good thing in a truck this old. It means that someone has taken the time to go through the engine and replace any worn-out parts, which can really extend the life of the vehicle. Paired with that rebuilt engine is a 4-speed manual transmission with a compound low gear. This is a great feature for a truck like this, as it allows you to really take advantage of the engine's torque and get heavy loads moving with ease. The seller does mention that the transmission is a little noisy, but that it runs well overall. One really cool feature of this truck is the long bed with an extra gas tank. That means you've got plenty of room to haul just about anything you need, and you won't have to worry about running out of gas on long trips. Now, the seller doesn't mention anything about the condition of the body or frame, so that's something you'll definitely want to take a close look at if you're interested in this truck. Rust can be a real issue with classic vehicles like this, so be sure to inspect everything thoroughly before making a purchase. 11. We're looking at something really special. A 1959 Chevrolet Apache Fleetside shortbed that's listed for $25,000, and this one's got some serious collector appeal. Let's talk about what makes this truck special. First off, it's a rare shortbed Fleetside model, which is way less common than the stepside versions from this era. What's really impressive is that this truck's wearing its original paint and sheet metal, and coming from Hays, Kansas, it's managed to dodge the rust bullet that usually plagues these classics. The current owner has done some serious mechanical upgrading while keeping the truck's original character intact. The biggest upgrade is that Tremec TKO 605-speed transmission. That's a modern manual gearbox that transforms this classic into a legitimate highway cruiser capable of comfortable 65 miles per hour cruising. They've also installed a new clutch, throw-out bearing, flywheel, and driveline to support this upgrade. Recent maintenance includes new points, plugs, wires, fuel pump, and battery. The frame has been treated with POR 15 coating, which is serious rust prevention stuff. The 215/75/15 tires are nearly new, so no immediate expenses there. At $25,000, you're buying a piece of automotive history that's been thoughtfully upgraded for modern usability while maintaining its original character. The original straight-six engine paired with that modern 5-speed is a combo that gives you the best of both worlds, classic looks with modern drivability. 12. We're looking at a pretty interesting time capsule, a one-owner 1984 Ford Bronco 2 XLT that's up for grabs at $5,000. Let me keep it real with you about this little SUV. First off, one-owner vehicles from the 80s are getting pretty rare, so that's definitely noteworthy. This Bronco 2 is packing the V6 engine with an automatic transmission and 4WD, a pretty standard setup for these compact SUVs. The odometer shows 24,626, but it's rolled over, so we're looking at 124,626 miles or more. Now let's be honest here. The seller lists this as fair condition, which typically means it's got some issues that need addressing. These early Bronco 2s are known for their share of quirks, including potential rust problems and some mechanical gremlins that come with age. At $5,000, you're buying a piece of 80s SUV history that might need some TLC. The Bronco 2 has a bit of a mixed reputation. They're smaller and more nimble than their full-size Bronco siblings, but they also had some stability concerns that became pretty well known. If you're considering this as a project, parts are still relatively available, and these vehicles have a dedicated following. The XLT trim was the nicer package back in the day, so you might get some decent interior features if they've survived the past 39 years. 13. We're checking out a classic 1970 Ford F100 Sport Custom that's listed for $7,800. And let me tell you about this piece of American iron. This long bed beauty is rocking the 302 V8 engine paired with a 3-speed manual transmission mounted on the column. Yeah, that's right. It's got that classic 3-on-the-tree setup that'll take you right back to the good old days. The odometer shows 13,693, but it's rolled over. So we're looking at 113,693 miles or more of American history here. The Sport Custom trim was Ford's upscale package for these trucks back in the day, offering a bit more comfort and style than the base models. This one's wearing a blue paint job, and while the seller's description is pretty brief, they're rating the condition as good. At $7,800, you're in the ballpark for these classic F100S, especially if it's a solid runner. These trucks are getting harder to find in decent shape, and the 302 manual combo is a reliable, serviceable drivetrain that's got plenty of aftermarket support if you need parts. What makes these 70 F100S special is their perfect blend of classic styling and reasonable usability. They're simple enough to work on yourself, but still capable enough to use regularly if you're so inclined. 14. We're checking out a fascinating 1981 Ford F350 with a unique U-Haul history, listed at $8,500. Let me break down this interesting build for you. This truck, affectionately named Tanner, started life as a U-Haul rental and has been transformed into something pretty special. At its heart is the bulletproof 300 cubic inch inline-six engine that's been rebuilt, along with a rebuilt automatic transmission and rear end. What's really cool here is how the owner converted the U-Haul box into a custom 10-foot aluminum flatbed with double-walled sides. That's some clever engineering. The seller has been super thorough with the upgrades. The interior's gotten a complete refresh with new seat covers, floor mats, dash pad, radio, and all new weather stripping. Outside, you're looking at new fenders, windshield, bumper, and a DIY paint job that the seller honestly admits isn't perfect, but gets the job done. Here's what makes this listing special: the level of detail and honesty from the seller. They're upfront about everything, including not knowing the exact miles on the rebuild, since their late brother-in-law did the work. And they're clear about the lack of power steering, which is why they're selling. The truck comes with a bunch of uninstalled new parts, including a distributor, ignition module, and suspension bushings. Plus, you get all the manuals, chains, and even extra aluminum from the original U-Haul box. 15. We're checking out a super clean 1981 Ford F100 that's listed for $8,650, and this one's got some interesting features to talk about. Let's start with what makes this truck special. It's wearing its original paint, which is pretty rare for a 40-year-old pickup. The seller claims zero rust, which is like finding a unicorn for these old Fords. Under the hood, you've got the reliable 302 V8 paired with an automatic transmission, a combo that's known for its durability and easy maintenance. The odometer shows 18,500, but it's rolled over, so we're looking at 118,500 miles or more. But don't let that scare you. These trucks were built to last, and this one's been kept in excellent condition according to the seller. Recent updates include a new windshield and fresh tires, which are always good investments. Being a two-wheel drive model, you'll get better fuel economy and fewer maintenance headaches than with a 4x4. At $8,650, you're in the right ballpark for a well-preserved F100 from this era, especially one with the original paint and no rust issues. These trucks are becoming increasingly popular with collectors, but they're still practical enough to use regularly if you want to. 16. We're looking at a sweet 1958 Ford F100 short bed that's up for grabs at $11,500. And this one's got some serious work done to it. Let's talk about what makes this truck special. It's powered by the legendary 312 Y-block V8, breathing through a 4-barrel Edelbrock carb and headers. The seller's done a ton of recent mechanical work, including a carb rebuild, valve adjustment, new gaskets all around, and a fresh timing chain setup. That Y-block engine is a piece of Ford history, and when properly maintained like this one, they're pretty robust motors. The transmission is the classic 3-on-the-tree manual, which is working well according to the seller. The brake system has been completely overhauled with new everything: master cylinder, wheel cylinders, hoses, hardlines, the works. That's some serious peace of mind right there. Inside, you're getting a new headliner and carpet, plus there's a rubber kit for the doors waiting to be installed. The transmission is that classic 3-on-the-tree manual setup, which the seller says is working well. I've got to point out that while the listing says FWD, that's definitely a typo. These trucks are rear-wheel drive. The rear axle's been flipped, and it's sitting on 16-inch steel wheels with fresh rubber. At $11,500, considering all the recent work and the current market for these classic F100 ES, this seems like a fair deal for someone who wants a well-sorted example. Plus, it's tagged through January 2026, so you won't have to deal with that hassle for a while. 17. We've got a real treat for you. A 1969 Chevy C10 that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. This beauty is priced at just $8,500, which seems like a steal for a classic truck like this. Now, let's dive into the details. This C10 comes with its original 350 V8 engine and a 4-speed manual transmission, which is sure to get your heart racing. The seller mentions that it runs smooth and drives straight, which is always a good sign. Plus, with a clean title in hand, you can rest assured that there won't be any legal hassles down the road. One thing to note is that the brakes do need some attention, and the left turn signal is a bit finicky. But hey, that's just part of the charm of owning a classic vehicle, right? The seller even got a quote from Les Schwab for $500 to get those brakes fixed up, so you know exactly what you're getting into. Now let's talk about the upgrades. This C10 has been decked out with all sorts of goodies, from a new Edelbrock carburetor to LED headlights and a Pioneer Bluetooth stereo. The seller has clearly put a lot of love and attention into this truck, and it shows. Of course, with a vehicle this old, there's bound to be some rust. The seller mentions some minor surface rust in the bed and throughout the body, but nothing too serious. In fact, they even took the time to sand down the bed and apply Coroseal to protect it from further damage. 18. We've got a real gem for you. A 1984 Chevy Silverado that's sure to turn heads wherever it goes. This beauty is up for grabs on Craigslist, and it's priced at just $14,500. Now, let's talk about what makes this truck so special. First off, the seller mentions that it's a solid and beautiful truck, with a body and mechanics that are very sound. That's always a good sign when you're looking at a classic vehicle like this. Under the hood, you'll find a 350 cubic inch engine paired with an automatic transmission. And if you're a fan of performance upgrades, you'll be happy to know that this Silverado has headers and a new carburetor. That means you can expect some serious power and a throaty exhaust note that'll make you grin from ear to ear. But that's not all. This truck has been outfitted with all sorts of modern conveniences, like power steering, power brakes, power door locks, air conditioning, cruise control, tilt steering wheel, and even power windows. Plus, with keyless entry, you can hop in and go without fumbling for your keys. The interior has been completely redone with custom bucket seats, a console, new headliner, and fresh carpet. The dash has been replaced, and there's even a new Bluetooth stereo system with a subwoofer. And if you're a fan of custom touches, you'll love the custom steering wheel. On the outside, this Silverado has been lowered for a sleek, aggressive stance. The cowl hood adds to the muscular look, and the new tires and rims complete the package. 19. We've got a real blast from the past for you. A 1980 Ford F-150 custom step-side pickup that's currently up for grabs on Craigslist. This classic beauty is priced at just $6,500, which seems like a pretty fair deal for a truck with this much character. Now let's dive into the details. This F-150 has racked up 172,956 miles on the odometer, which is to be expected for a truck that's over 40 years old. But don't let that number scare you off. The seller mentions that it's only been driven about 10,000 miles since 2014, so it's clearly been well cared for in recent years. Under the hood, you'll find a 300 cubic inch straight-six engine paired with a 4-speed manual transmission that has an overdrive gear in fourth. That means you can expect decent fuel economy and plenty of torque for hauling and towing. The seller does mention a few issues that potential buyers should be aware of. The wood in the bed needs to be replaced, which is a fairly common issue with older trucks like this. And apparently, the truck was parked for nearly 5 years and needed a new distributor to get it running again. But the good news is that it now runs and drives just fine, according to the seller. One thing that's not mentioned in the ad is the condition of the body and paint. From the photos, it looks like the brown paint job has seen better days, with some fading and rust visible. But honestly, that just adds to the vintage charm of this truck. And who knows, maybe you could even use it as a starting point for a custom paint job or patina look. 20. Get ready to feast your eyes on this classic beauty. A 1976 GMC High Sierra K 1500 pickup that's currently available on Craigslist for just $5,100. This truck is a true survivor, and it's got all the right ingredients to make any classic truck enthusiast weak in the knees. First off, let's talk about that engine. This High Sierra is powered by the original 400 small block V8 with a 4-barrel carburetor, which is a tried-and-true power plant that's known for its reliability and grunt. The seller mentions that the engine was rebuilt a few years back, so you can rest assured that it's got plenty of life left in it. Paired with that engine is a TH350 automatic transmission, which is a great choice for a truck like this. It's a smooth shifting transmission that can handle the torque of the V8 with ease. One of the coolest features of this truck is the 4x4 drivetrain. With the flip of a switch, you can engage the front wheels and tackle just about any terrain you can throw at it. Whether you're using this truck for work or play, that 4x4 capability is sure to come in handy. Inside the cab, you'll find some great factory options like cruise control, air conditioning, and a tilt wheel. The odometer reads just under 73,000 miles, which is relatively low for a truck of this age. And with a clean title in hand, you can be confident that there are no hidden surprises lurking in this truck's past.